Hello, my name is Merikay Hunt. Welcome to Wondermous, a healthcare leadership journey. I am your hostess for this podcast. And, it's been very powerful to meet so many amazing people in this journey of launching this podcast last year. And today I want to welcome Nathan. Nathan Bush is the VP of Sales and Marketing for SnapScale. And kick us off. Tell us a little bit about you and your background.
Yeah, appreciate the opportunity. And it's because of the guests that we even have the opportunity to do this show. So I'm very thankful that everybody's participating and watching online. My background, it starts off in property management, journeys into healthcare. And then I was at a crossroads and had to make a decision. But what was interesting is I think it brought me back into healthcare.
Mm,
And all that experience of growing up, Mary Kay, and learning about systems and marketing and sales and understanding communication, I think all of that was super important in property management. And I think it
mhm,
prepared a operational career to the importance of identifying the truth and finding what's
mm.
actually important in healthcare organizations. And so today I work for SnapScale, but before I worked for SnapScale, I was actually a client of SnapScale, which was
Mm.
interesting. I worked for a hearing aid practice, and I was a vice president of operations there. And we grew from 7 locations to 47 locations. We went from 2 million in revenue to over 20 million in revenue. And
Wow.
SnapScale happened to be my staffing partner. So
Okay.
when I was at the crossroads, once we exited the hearing aid business, I had a decision that I needed to make, and it was I found a great mentor in my friend Mike Yablonowitz, who's the CEO of SnapScale, and he happened to bring me on, and here we are today, 4.5 years later.
That's awesome. Well, and it's interesting because I actually talked to one of my coaching clients about you and your firm last week. And because historically, in the last couple of years, one of the big issues that's come up when I am speaking to the different medical group managers associations across the United States is staffing. So, why don't you share a little bit about what your firm does, and then we'll talk a little bit more about your leadership journey.
Yeah, I appreciate you offering that opportunity. What my firm really does is we look at the organizational challenges and issues, or what you might in the healthcare world call symptoms.
Sure.
And we help you diagnose what are the proper places to add additional support. And
Mm-hmm.
whether those support, SnapScale provides remote, cost effective, HIPAA compliant team members.
Mm-hmm.
That's one solution, but there are plenty of solutions that are out there that are important in that diagnosis process. Because what I have come to realize and identify is that when leaders align people, systems, and purpose with the truth, the practices become
Mm.
healthy and the patients win.
Oh, I got goosebumps when you said that. That was awesome. Thank you. And one of the things that I think is powerful is people. And I think what impressed me about you when we met was your love of knowledge. So why don't you share with people a little bit about your upbringing and about your love of knowledge?
Yeah. So when I grew up, it was important for me to learn to interact with other people. And I found it difficult at first. In fact, in my book, The Caesar Method, I write about my outcast upbringing. And I
Mm,
was a football player, but I was also a musician. I was a
okay.
musician, but I was also a magician. I was a
Oh, wow.
magician, a football player, and I was a straight A student. So it was difficult for me to fit into any one specific group of people. And
Wow.
I think that being on the outside of all of these different cliques and groups, number one, helped me really understand the formation of those groups,
Sure.
because that's led me to marketing and helping bring partnerships and organizations together. But more importantly, I think it also showed me the importance of my lack, my deficit.
Mm,
One of the principles I live by, Mary Kay, is if you're going to chase anything, chase alignment with the truth, because
mm,
alignment with anything other than the truth becomes deception. And so, what I was chasing in that process was I didn't want to chase money. I didn't want to chase success. I wanted to chase behaving correctly. I
mm,
wanted to chase becoming a healthier person. I wanted to chase, the finding what actually worked. And so that curiosity drove me to reading and developing and to growing. And so I, have read thousands and thousands of books. In fact, I do a series on Fridays where I just review books and I give my intake or my piece of nugget of thing that I took away, because these authors there's a million authors out there. They're all incredible. And each person has nuggets of information you can take away every single time. And so I just do this series on LinkedIn called From My Bookshelf. And
Nice.
I share some of the things that I've learned from these books along the way. In fact, I have your book. I read your book, and I have your book coming up here very shortly, is the next series that I'm going through on LinkedIn.
Awesome. Thank you. I have to share, I wrote that down when you said that, Nathan, chase the truth. And I teared up just a little bit because whew, I'm getting a little wave of emotion thinking about this, but that's part of my journey is how I've wanted to help people. Because my upbringing, I grew up with a very critical, demanding mother who really never shared anything I ever did right. And so I thought there's a different way to communicate. There's a different way to relate to people and understand people. And I think that's one of the reasons I've dedicated my career to be that catalyst for positive, purposeful change. And I will share how much it meant to me when you told me that you had finished reading my book, but then you had created this amazing sketch, kind of a mind map of different philosophies and principles and nuggets that you learned. And what do you think are some of your top three learning lessons that you've had and all of this wealth of knowledge that you've read in your career?
The top three learning nuggets of everything that I've read over my career, that is accumulation of my life's work. And so I think what it really comes down to is what's been built into my core values, Mary Kay.
Yes,
Because if you understand my core values and how I live out my life, that's what I've taken away from the books that I've read.
sure.
And the number one core value, as you've heard me deliver from the very beginning of this presentation, is the truth. I
Mm,
believe that anything outside of alignment with the truth is just complete deception.
sure.
And so when I can focus on the truth, no matter which angle, at least I can start to bring myself into alignment with the truth whenever I'm focused on it. But if I'm outside of that, I'm being deceived. So
Right.
that's my first core value, is the truth. My second core value is integrity.
Okay.
I live by integrity. Integrity is what you say is what shows up in the real world, but it's also your alignment with what's right. And
Mm,
so if what's right is the truth, then our integrity is our representation to the world about our identification of the truth.
absolutely.
And then my next core value would be my faith.
Mm,
And so what's interesting about this philosophy is that my truth leads to my integrity, and my integrity then leads to my faith. My faith is really just the actions of me carrying out what I discovered in the truth.
love
And
that.
so those core values then help me to be able to show, which is my next core value, love or care for healthcare
Mhm.
practices.
Absolutely.
Love helps me show care to other people. And so if I'm in alignment with the truth, ultimately it helps me care or show care to other people. And when they recognize it, that's called service. And
Yes.
that's my last core value. So
Mm,
truth, integrity, faith, love or care, and service are my core values that I live by. And those are the major takeaways that from all of the books that I've read. They've
mm,
helped me put me in alignment with the truth so I can live an integrous life, so I
sure.
can express my faith in a way that cares about other people so they see the service that I care about them.
Hmm. And what's interesting to me about that, because I've done core value exercises for organizations, is how do you think that aligns with SnapScale's core values?
Yeah, it's interesting to say, what are SnapScale's core values versus what my personal core values are. Because
Hmm.
my personal core values are the way that I try to live into the world, the person I try to be, and who I show up as, right?
Sure.
Those core values from SnapScale, that's who SnapScale's trying to be and who they try to show up as. And
Hmm.
so when in SnapScale, when they talk about communication is one of their core values, what they're really saying is they care about people in such a way that they want to make sure that communication is at the forefront of their expression of who they are.
Mm-hmm.
Whenever they say, putting in the work or doing the work is a core value of theirs. That we have ownership in our campaign, right? That is the core
Absolutely.
value, is
Sure.
ownership in
Sure.
our campaign of doing the work. And so if nobody's taking ownership and they're not communicating, then the expression of our organization is not authentic or is not true. And
Right.
so for me, from my perspective, organizations have what's called symptoms, Mary Kay. When
Mm-hmm.
I work with healthcare organizations, there are symptoms that show up. These symptoms can be anything from accounts receivable that are behind.
Right.
They might be symptoms of communication. There might be symptoms of revenue leaking or no-show appointments. A lot of different symptoms show up.
Mm-hmm.
But what I have identified and found is that it takes a diagnostician or a diagnosis to look at the entire picture of these symptoms that are showing up and then help provide the right diagnosis so that the company can take action on solving those problems. And one of the interesting things are even doctors have doctors.
Right.
And so,
Sure.
from
Sure.
my standpoint, if you can't do business on your, you can't see the symptoms and treat your symptoms on your own. You have to work with other partners, other businesses, other coaches, other people to be able to see these gaps. And the gaps happen to, unfortunately, this isn't to be mean to anybody that has symptoms that are going on, but these gaps are what I call character gaps.
Mm-hmm.
They're leadership character gaps, communication character gaps, their execution character gaps, or sometimes, unfortunately, staffing character gaps.
Sure. Sure. Exactly.
So we can't have Superman complex. We can't do it all. And we
Mm-hmm.
can't expect our team members to have Superman complex either and do it all. I
Well,
had one I had one clinic owner, Mary Kay, recently tell me, he said he sent a note back and saying, we decided not to hire any additional staff, which is fine. It doesn't matter to me one way or another whether they hired the staff. However, they decided not to hire the staff because their front desk seems to have had it the entire time, and they don't seem to need any additional help or support with the work that we identified were falling through the gap today. But
mm-hmm.
what was interesting in it is every missed call, every no-show that showed up in their organization, every insurance verification that wasn't getting done. Those are all opportunities for revenue leaks or accounts receivable
Right.
issues
Sure.
inside the business that are constantly showing up. So while you may believe that your staff can handle the workload right now, there are still signs and symptoms of areas of character gaps or neglect in your staffing. And so when we go in and we solve that, Mary Kay, then it makes the practice more healthy.
Absolutely. And Nathan, one of the things that struck me when you were sharing that is from a sales perspective, you go in and you want to discover their needs, like you said, the gaps. And when we can truly discover the issues and what's going on, then that's when we can provide a strategic solution to people. And when we look at bridges of communication, people's happiness at work is all going to be about the workflow and their relationship with whoever they're reporting to. And when we have excellent workflow and harmonious and people are enjoying what they do, then the work satisfaction, the employee satisfaction increases. And that's what I see that you all can provide, because one of the reasons that I want to refer you to my coaching client who owns a medical billing company is because she wastes time on the phone on hold. And I want her to be more in business development and relationship development and do more consulting. So we need to find a way to duplicate her. And that's why I'm excited to get you two together. So when you think about your career journey, what's been a big learning lesson or a challenge that you've overcome?
Yeah. For me, I think the biggest one was to develop my character before I developed my career.
Oh,
I
okay.
put so much effort into growing my career and trying to achieve things and not bringing myself into alignment with the truth from the very beginning. See, everything stems back to this concept, Mary Kay, of understanding what is actually the truth.
Mm-hmm.
And we can go off on these tangents in our careers. We can waste lots of time. We can spend time in the wrong industry. I wonder what it would have been like if I listened to the truth at the time and started my career seeking solutions in healthcare. How
Mm.
many more patients could have been healed? How many more times could patient care have been increased? How many more healthcare practice could have grown because I would have put myself into alignment with what the truth was asking me back when I got my undergraduate degree in nonprofit management from Lindenwood University. And the first job my mom got for me was at selling hair care products from salon to salon. And
Wow.
that was the start or the understanding of how chemicals work in the hair and how they improve people's lives, and how ultimately from having business conversations with people, we could serve more people cosmetically. Well,
Sure.
had that same intention just followed the rest of my career, what I was learning then, what I understood then, instead of me taking these other tangential paths, trying to chase success, chase money, go where I thought that I could have the most resources, or do the best for build a name for myself. None of that stuff matters. The
Mhm.
only thing that matters is me slowing down and focusing on what is the actual truth in this situation. If I can bring my company into alignment, if I can bring my clients into alignment with what's actually going on, not what I think's going on, not what I
Sure.
feel's going on, not what my team members think or feel is going on, getting a factual understanding of what's going on. Did you pull your missed call logs? Do you know how many missed calls you have? How
Mm-hmm.
many patients do you see each month? How many insurance verifications are being completed? What is the time invested in those types of things? How long are you sitting on hold for?
Right.
These truths matter, and they matter so much because once I can recognize that there's actually a symptom there and that's part of the larger problem, then I can actually solve it. But if I treat the wrong disease, I treat the wrong illness, or I treat the wrong pain inside of physical therapy, if I treat the wrong thing, I don't get the proper outcome. The
Mm.
proper outcome is more health. And look, when you talk about health, people will understand this immediately. When I first started in my personal health journey, right? The first thing that I started doing was I stopped eating fried foods and I stopped doing desserts. And if I backed that up even a couple of years ago, I stopped drinking soda, right? These were just some
Sure.
disciplines that I
Sure.
could put in place.
Conscious decisions.
Stop. Yeah, stop. Does that mean that I've never had ice cream ever since I made that decision? No,
Mm.
I've made a mistake. I've fallen short. I've missed the mark on my health in some situations. I wouldn't be as 250-ish pounds right now if I didn't miss the mark sometimes. But it doesn't mean that I don't stop pursuing better health,
Mm-hmm.
right? So once
Absolutely.
I fixed those things, then I went to physical exercise. Now I'm doing 5-mile walks every single morning. I haven't missed a day in over 2.5 months, but I'm working on my health. I go to the doctor regularly. I get my blood work checked now. I know what my A1C is. I know what my cholesterols are. I'm working on my health. Then I started focusing on my sleep now. Now that I have better exercise, I've got better eating habits, I'm focusing on my sleep.
Good.
Each one of these are different pieces of my health.
Right.
Well, it's okay if we fall short, if we miss the mark, if there's challenges, issues, gaps. I would never be embarrassed as a patient because I went into the doctor and actually got my health checked or looked at. I would
Mm-hmm.
never be embarrassed by that because it's like stepping on the scale for the first time. You know exactly now where your starting point is and where your weight is.
Sure.
That's okay. It might be uncomfortable, but it's better to know than not know. Wouldn't you agree?
Absolutely. Well, and ultimately, how we feel, what we think, what we surround ourselves with, it plays a role into our daily walk of our peace of mind, of our joy, of our strength. And I used to follow this woman who taught it was kind of like jazzercise back in the day, Denise Austin. I'm dating myself here, but she had like an 80-20 rule where she would do well 80% of the day and kind of splurge 20% of the day. And the other thing that you reminded me of is there's a book that I'm reading now called To Hell with the Hustle. And this Christian writer is amazing. And he and his wife decided instead of setting goals, they're going to set transformations because that way they can continuously be working on something to transform. So I am proud of you for your transformation in your health journey. And as we come in for a landing here, Nathan, I would like you to think about if you were going to talk to your younger self and give your younger self some words of wisdom or encouragement, what would you say?
Mary Kay, do you remember? I think it was the early 90s, late 90s, the TV show The House, TV show House.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, I think a lot of people love this show because ultimately House sought the truth,
Mm,
but there was a conflict between being right and the truth,
hmm.
right? That was the conflict. And that's what everybody in every single episode of the show they learned to realize. But here's what ultimately ended up happening. Those patients received the appropriate care. And
Mm,
so here's, the direction of all of that culminating towards the outcome that I'm trying to achieve in life. Care is not enablement and it's not appeasement, but it is formed on each and every truth that we discover. And so
absolutely.
for me, I'm working on health. I'm working on my physical health, but I'm also working on my leadership health.
Mm,
I'm also working on my communication health. I'm
hmm.
working on my execution health. Each piece of these in my life, I'm looking at the different areas, scoring myself on those every single week. Sit down, I write out in my journal from faith to family to fitness to the different areas of my health. I give myself a score, and there's a continuous improvement on each one of those to be at the peak, what I feel is the peak of each one of those each and every week. And if I feel a deficit in friendship or family or faith or fitness, if I see that deficit, it's okay. I allow myself the opportunity to not be perfect at it. But then
Sure.
I also say, what are the different steps that I should take to improve in this area? And
Mm,
if you could just look at those things and identify what are the truth, sometimes you have blind spots, right? You have to work with a coach. You have to find some. My LinkedIn was a disaster coming into this year.
mm.
It was nice that I met somebody that gave me some coaching that helped me improve my LinkedIn. So now when you read Friday from my bookshelf, you get authentic Nathan. You
Nice.
get honestly who I am. I'm showing up online as the same person as I am offline. And so it's important that that's reflected to the community of people who are online looking at my profile for the
Sure.
work that I do,
That's
right? I don't
awesome.
want anybody to see something different. I want them to show up in a Zoom call with me the same way that I show up on Friday afternoons for them.
There you go. Well, and I love that because the overall theme is that every day is a day of new beginnings. So, how can people get in touch with you, Nathan?
Yeah, the easiest way is to go to snapscale.com/start,
Okay,
and you can schedule an opportunity to have a phone call with me there. You
great.
can also email me at in like Nathan in BUSH at snapscale.com if you have a specific question or are interested in learning more about this concept of practice health.
Thank you. Wonderful to speak with you today, Nathan. And again, my name is Merikay Hunt, founder of Coach MK Companies, where we are dedicated to creating catalysts for change. We want you to live a purposeful, positive life and elevate and transform your leadership. So check me out at coachmkay.com. Also, we'll have some more contacts and wisdom nuggets in the comments. So follow Wondermous, and we hope to see you on the next episode. Blessings and make every day count.